Hello and welcome to the debate. I'm your host Rafae Iqbal, and in today's show we'll be discussing two very important topics. The first relating to Pakistan's economy and of course Pakistan's economic front. We'll be talking about the Uraan-Pakistan program, a 5-year economic plan, a homegrown economic plan that was of course launched by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. In the second topic, we'll be talking about the New Orleans attack in which a US war veteran kills 15 in the French Quarter attack, displaying an ISIS flag as well. Talking about the first topic, which relates to Pakistan's economic front, the Uraan-Pakistan, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif launched this program, and of course the program was emphasized upon by the country's planning minister Iqbal as he laid down this framework, this plan focuses on the 5 E's. Which are mainly the exports, energy, e-Pakistan, equity and education. This program focuses on uplifting the socio-economic standards of the country and all the people living inside the country. If you talk about Pakistan's economic front, we know all the positive economic indicators. They are showing how there's a good momentum and boosted investor confidence in the country. The monetary policy rate has cut down, inflation rate has cut down to a single digit. An extended fund facility was agreed upon with the IMF, and a lot of positive ratings from, of course, the international rating agencies as well are a testament to the increased investor confidence in the country, and of course praise to the SIFC for that as well. A meeting was also held today, convened by, of course, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, where the performance was reviewed of the Special Investment Facilitation Council, and the economic developments along with the security developments of the region were discussed in detail. If you talk about the Uraan-Pakistan program, it focuses on a goal to achieve 6% GDP growth by the year 2029. We'll be deliberating on the different aspects of this program and this framework that was launched by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. In the second topic, we'll be discussing how Shamsuddin Jabbar, a US Army veteran, plowed his truck into the crowd and started shooting on New Year's Eve. FBI termed the incident as terrorism, and of course an ISIS flag was also found in his vehicle. We'll also be deliberating on that, but coming back to our first topic, we'll be delving into details regarding Pakistan's Uraan-Pakistan program, the 5-year economic plan. In the studios, we have been joined by Dr. Jasim Anwar, who is a development expert. Along with that, we have been joined by geopolitical analyst Faisal. And on Skype, we have been joined by Niaz, who is a PhD Gender Studies at the University of Warwick, and Dr. Nasir Iqbal, who is an economist. I'd like to thank you all for your time and being part of the conversation. Starting from Dr. Jasim, coming to our first topic regarding Uraan-Pakistan, the 5-year economic homegrown plan. So, as we're seeing a positive momentum in Pakistan's economic front already, how do you see, of course, this 5-year plan going forward?
Well, thank you so much for having me in this program. If you look at the broader contours of this Uraan-Pakistan, it is basically the translation of the 5E framework to turn around Pakistan. So basically, if you look at first, export. So the government is focusing on how to promote the export-oriented economy to make surplus for the country and then focus on exporting to international markets. So if this export-oriented focused, there are certain parameters that are set for next 5 years that will actually enable the growth to reach at the 6% GDP per annum, and then similarly reducing the inflation and then all the allied requirements that are needed to boost the economy by 1 trillion 2035 and 3 trillion by 2050. So if you look at this contour and the dimensions that are being set, you look at the previous 2024 data to 2023 data, and all are indicative of that the economy, the way our inflation is coming down, the way the currency is stabilizing, and the way the policies are shaping up is all indicative that the plan will work for sure to have the economic boost in the country. Yes.
Definitely, and of course, including comments from Dr. Nasir Iqbal. As the 5Es framework, it also focuses on energy, and we know Pakistan imports a lot of hydrocarbons, which of course is a burden on the country's foreign exchange reserves. With this Uraan-Pakistan plan, how do you see, of course, us reducing down our spending on these imported hydrocarbons?
I think it's a very good initiative in terms of shaping the policy agenda for the medium term, and the government is very hopeful if they actually executed this plan as per their wishes. Probably it will help to at least sustain 4 to 5% GDP growth rate. Of course, can say that it is a decent growth rate, even if we achieve this 4 to 5% growth rate in next 4 to 5 years. Coming to this very important issue of energy, we are struggling with the mix that we have currently. They entirely based on the either on coal, either on the fuel. Those are really fluctuating and creating a lot of hurdle in terms of foreign exchange reserve. And probably we have to figure out the alternative waves, and this next 5 years would be crucial in terms of creating a leverage. On the one hand, it will help you to clean your environment. On the other hand, it will help to reduce the cost of energy. That is the major bottlenecks for the industrial sector and the business economy. So if you really want to grow and to allow the private sector to facilitate this ambitious agenda and try to contribute from there, and we have to work on these end as well. So this energy is very important, and the first component that you mentioned in your first question is the export. So the export is key to me. If we leave all other uh, four element and we really want to focus on the one element for the survival and the revival of the country, that is export. And we all have to work to create export surplus. And I think I have written an article on that. First year, that is this 2025 year, we should call this year a business year, where the key focus would be to facilitate local investors, to make sure that we have a consistency in our policy, to make sure that we create an environment of the confidence for the local investor so they can create export surplus. So success of this 5E, this Uraan, is all depends on this first component to me, that is export. So we have to create the export surplus.
Definitely, including comments from Mishal Niaz as well. As we talk about the 5E's framework, it also focuses on empowerment. And of course, you being a PhD in gender studies, how important do you think including the female population and of course of the country, and of course making a more inclusive environment where they contribute to revenue generation of the country? Of course, we talk about increasing the country's exports, but do you think cottage industries empowered by women, by the local women, can help reduce, of course, and of course contribute to the national economy?
And Mishal, you can also shed some light on the fact that when we talk about women empowerment, one of the E's is very important, and that is related to e-commerce. In our culture, we know it is considered, still considered in certain areas of Pakistan, for women to be working, it's a taboo. How can we focus on e-commerce? How can we focus on AI, emerging technologies, all of this for the women, so that by staying at home, they can work from home and still they can contribute in the economy?
Absolutely, and thank you so much for this absolutely crucial conversation. And yes, as important as economic growth led by exports is very crucial for the success of Uraan, I do believe, and I sincerely believe, that an inclusive growth is also the way forward. A sustainable development, strategic development cannot happen without all segments of society, especially the marginalized ones, being included in this development. And that includes women, but also includes the youth. As we know, Pakistan was one of the youngest countries, and we also have physical people with physical disabilities, and people living in the rural areas. And coming to the second point, first of all, is that e-commerce or AI and the technology is certainly a huge driver that can help us to bring these marginalized communities of the society, which includes women and transgenders, into the realm of economic development. And needless to say, we have a huge population. The women constitute 48.7% of our population. However, they're underrepresented in the labor force, only 25%, and that too includes informal labor market, which certainly has more precarious working conditions. So it is absolutely crucial to bring women into the fold of economic development, and that is there's no question as to why and how that will be the move forward. And I would like to bring the the case study of Bangladesh, who increased their female labor force participation exponentially, and that led to their industrial growth. And talking about the cottage industry, yes, absolutely, that has a huge potential for bringing women, specifically in the rural areas, into the folds of the formal economy. But also, as my colleagues also said, that moving towards a export-led growth, we will have to focus on value addition in these cottage industries, such that our products are obviously they are very much appreciated in the global economy, but they become efficient as well to be
Definitely.
able to compete in the global market.
Definitely. Coming towards Dr. Jasim, as we talk about e-commerce and digital economy, and of course, we're living in a digital era. We know there's a lot of work that's being outsourced from the Western countries to Pakistan, such as the IT sector being one of the prime examples. But of course, when we talk about cottage industry, Pakistan is very famous for its handicraft products. There are a lot of other products as well, such as the marble salt, the pink salt. And there are a lot of other value-added products that Pakistan has. But of course, do you think there need to be more of value added to them, and of course they being finalized, because in these times when there's a concept of drop shipping as well, and of course a youth bulge in the country, do you think this can be capitalized on with this correct mixture?
Yes, actually, I would like to commend my colleagues regarding the empowerment of the women and their labor participation, and then ultimately leading the country using various strategies, including e-commerce and then value addition. So if you look at the overall statistics and overall the strategies that the government is working, I would highlight the recent initiative of EV scooters being given to the youth, especially the females who are getting into the colleges and the universities, then specialized loans for the women who can actually start homegrown businesses or small cottage businesses. Then adding on to another component is the mobility of the women, which pink buses are being given to almost each and every province, and including the federal area. Now, adding on to this woman empowerment role, there are a number of initiatives which are basically culturally sensitive to empower the women, considering their own local habitat. So in that context, the concept that this Uraan Pakistan is bringing in is to bring the business solutions, innovation through IT driven and value addition to their own homes, where they don't have to go out, whereas establishing businesses within their community setups. For example, there is a project which is being approved, and soon it will be implemented. This is only women driven markets, where only females will be given shops. There will be only women working for promoting the cottage industry, as well as having some IT centers, business incubation centers, and so on. So add on to it, you're talking about the youth bulge. So if you know that Pakistan, as Dr. Mishal and my other colleague Iqbal Sahab mentioned, the population is almost 60-65% of the total bulge of the Pakistan population, which is around 15 to about 30, 35, 40 years. So the focus is how we build their skill set based on the international market, international standards, so that they not only focus on one aspect rather than bringing innovation and technology across the board. No doubt IT is a major contributor, and last year we have seen enormous growth in the IT driven or foreign remittances or growth in the GDP. But yet at the same time, those countries that have established its development focus and were able to achieve a high GDP are those who are focusing the services industry, like Japan, like US, like Korea. So the services industry is driven both by males and females, primarily by the youth who are equipped to meet the day-to-day challenges. In that, what government is doing in terms of building human capital, I'll say in that. So we have launched a specialized internship program. It's called Bakhtiyar Naujawan Internship Program, in which the government is offering more than 40-50,000 internships paid internships to the recent graduates, especially focusing on underutilized and under marginalized areas such as Balochistan, a specialized quota for Balochistan, and placing those in the private industry, because the new strategy and the 5E framework and the 13th five-year plan starts with the statement that the government should promote private sector, like my other colleagues were mentioning, and government should only regulate, make certain standards, policies, legislations, and enforce those laws, whereas we should encourage the private sector for more business orientations, more business-led economies, so on. So the number of things, but its cumulative effect will be seen in shape of overall GDP growth. Yes.
Rafae, with your permission, I would like to go towards Dr. Nasir. Dr. Nasir, we always highlight this, that gone are the days when rocks and crops used to be, of course, a center of gravity of our exports. Of course, we are in 21st century, where ideas are more important than rocks and crops. And when we talk about the ideas, of course, Pakistan is full of youth that has ideas and they can contribute. Whenever we talk about export driven economy, of course we know that in modern times IT exports, they play the crucial role in a country like Pakistan. And it has been reported before as well that Pakistan is a kind of country with its youth, with its education systems. It has the capacity to generate more than $50 billion a year in terms of IT exports. And we know our eastern neighbor India is already sitting at $106 billion. And whenever we talk about India improving its economy, it couldn't have been possible for them without the focus on the IT sector. We are standing where we need to put more efforts into IT sector, because we are just sitting on $2.7 or $2.8 billion a year when it comes to IT exports. How we can improve this further, and when we talk about selling the ideas, what kind of hurdles we are facing in terms of the IT sector, including the internet services in Pakistan, sir?
I think we should take it a very serious, because IT and the AI is the future. You know that it will substantially change the nature of work and everything it would change. But how we can excel in this very particular area? Let's leave the cotton and the textile and the automobile sector. We are not in a position to compete on those edge. But here we have the competitive advantage in terms of the youth that we are just discussing. But the question of how we can materialize the youth into a more productive and idea creating like a industry, rather than just they are putting some effort in freelancing and getting a very marginal amount. The first and the fourth important component of this revival and the exponential increase in the IT sector is allowed to registered business by every individual at the very small level. We are just asking that there are like we have to add some intervention to increase the participation of women. But the question is why the earlier program was not succeeded despite massive allocation for the women, because there is a significant hurdle in terms of either getting the basic necessities in terms of internet, in terms of other equipment, in terms of registering a business. So if we I just make a suggestion that if we allow a business registration with the two documents, one, your CNIC, the second, your valid bank account. These are the two, I think, more than enough document to register any business. So allow our youth to register any kind of business at their own mobile by allowing with these two documents. If we create this kind of environment in our country, I believe, and you must acknowledge this, that we will have very exponential growth in 1 and 2 years. So let them to work. This is the first and super important component. The second component is we have to revisit our curriculum. Of course, it's not like a short-term intervention, but we have to focus on what kind of curriculum we have, what kind of teaching method, what kind of skill we are imparting in our youth at the university level. So we have to rethink our university model. Of course, we can't do in the very short run, but this is the future. And we are considering next 25 years. Because if the kid is like 20 years, he or she will be contributing to the economy in next 30 to 40 years. So we have to rethink and revisit our education model, especially at the university level. The last important component is if we really want to create an environment, we have to change this the narrative of very special economic zone to a small economic zone. To me, the small economic zone could be established in every school at every level. I'm just giving an idea, and maybe government can think of that. Like we have a public school in every village, in every town, in every city. Let declare that school as a small economic zone in the afternoon because they are vacant. There is no utility, and allow our women, our youth, our local people to come and use that space as a market. That will change the entire dynamics of the country in terms of the business. Look at the example of Bangladesh. Look at the other example like Thailand, how they transform. They, they are not transforming their economy with the very special economic zone. For that, you need a lot of investment. And the China only can do that type of investment. We don't have that leverage. But what leverage we have to create a small economic zone at the very village level, at the very small town, and allow people to communicate, to integrate in that value chain. Otherwise, if we go for small intervention like we targeting 100 people, we targeting 1,000 people, we targeting 10,000 people, that may not be a transformative way. If we really want to materialize this Uraan Pakistan, we have to think an out-of-box solution. For that, I'm just proposing one solution where we can really have, and there is no investment involved in this entire process because infrastructure is there, and we have to reutilize and properly utilize our public infrastructure. And maybe if the school can put some rent on those vendor, on those shops, those are establishing at the afternoon, and the school can establish their own infrastructure by getting money from those shops. So this would be a win-win situation. So we have to think like in that way that we really give an environment, and government no need to make investment in terms of money. The investment we required from the government is a facilitating environment. For facilitating environment, first the business registration should be on one click. The second, we have to create this small economic zone at every village, and there where there will be no investment required by the any agency. Just need a will, and the local administration those allocate the school and make some sort of arrangement. We have also a rural health center at the village level that can also be used, and like very they are very large and the land is there. Just like you can take the example of this Itwar Bazaar in Islamabad, how the small shop are getting a lot of benefit. So that would be the key. And in that sense, the e-commerce concept would emerge where the packaging, like the value addition would comes in. Otherwise, if we are only exporting something like that, there would be no value addition, and we maybe end up with the same situation. For that value addition, and that we have to, the last component is access to technology. To me, the access to technology is the proper access to internet, and internet for all. That's our slogan. It not mean we can like eliminate half of the country by on the name of anything that we can't give you a uninterrupted internet. Internet is just like a necessity for everyone. If we really like, we should have to be a fly, and we really want to fly, we should be on a very open on these front.
Yeah. Dr. Mishal, Dr. Nasir has highlighted excellent points, and very a good point which was highlighted was about the small markets in the rural areas. I mean, there is another aspect which I wanted to ask you about. When I visited back in 2021, there was flash flooding in Balochistan, there was static flooding in Sindh. I visited both of them. Majority of the women I came across in Balochistan side, they highlighted a fact about their livelihood. And what was their livelihood? I mean, their husbands, they were working in the bigger cities, but at home they had the livestock, and that livestock was considered as their livelihood, as their economic opportunity in there. But with the flash flooding, they lost that. In this context, when we talk about, of course, Uraan Pakistan, we know that it has emphasis on obviously our environmental changes as well, global warming. They are focusing on this as well. But at the same time, do you think that we have to advocate on these lines as well, on gender lines as well, that how women are losing their livelihoods in all of these climate change effects in Pakistan? And this, if not the whole country's climate justice, must be ensured by the world, but at least for the women it should be in place.
Absolutely. Women and children are always more vulnerable when it comes to climate catastrophes and natural disasters. And so we have seen in the case of the flash floods. And sort of linking back to the livelihood, we need to women, certainly a high proportion of women rely on cattle farming and small poultry to have a sort of supplementary stream of income. And when floods and natural disasters occur, these are the first ones to get damaged and be completely washed away. So I do believe that women will have to have a stronger safety net, and with that we do have a lot of social safety initiatives by the government. However, I do think that financial literacy and having more women have bank accounts, formal, and we do have mobile banking as well. So these sort of initiatives, and as well along with social safety nets, initiatives such as BERSP and other programs related to that will make women less vulnerable to when such natural disasters occur, or economic upheavals again disproportionately affect women and children. And to that, and I will also sort of go back to the idea of women. There are a high proportion of women and girls getting higher education in our university. However, when we look at the employment statistics, there is a stark difference. So we need to tap into the pipeline that is going from graduates and postgraduates, and why are those women not taking up jobs? And the answer is sort of pretty obvious, which is barriers to access. And one of them has already been highlighted by my colleague, which is mobility. Women and girls commuting to work and in universities and colleges face security concerns, and rightly so. So special initiatives like scooters or maybe specialized buses for women will certainly address that problem, along with having women-centric policies at the workplaces enforced by the government. So the availability of creches, or what we call daycare centers in places in work, will get more women who have the qualifications to enter the formal labor market. And with that, we'll also, and the government has been working on, harassment at workplace. We have certain laws and acts in place which are certainly changing the scenario quite fast. And finally, again, sorry, sort of going back to women working in rural areas who have small areas of land that they're using for farming, or have cattle or livestock that they rely on for supplementary income while their husbands work in cities. It is important that they have access to credit so that they can, buy fertilizers and pesticides, and maybe have other sort of small milk, something that they can sell within their towns and villages to up their income stream. Because we all know employment, whether formal or informal, greatly helps women in the household. They start having a say, they start having decision making agency, and most importantly, control over assets, be it be it livestock, or be it agricultural land, be it properties that positions women in a much stronger place in the household and in the economy.
Very well said. Of course, as we're concluding towards the first segment, Dr. Jasim, what are your remarks as the conversation has shaped up so far?
Oh, well, well, I was looking at the comments, I'm listening to comments my colleague is making, which primarily driven towards the woman share in the economy, and there is no second thought that it is crucial, but how to make it happen. I would like to highlight ILO conventions, which Pakistan is signatory. And in this convention, while woman enabling environment in a workplace which has various contributors and enablers, which include the harassments and the daycare centers, what the government is doing is improving the women's share in the leadership positions. Because it is a global fact that those women who are in leadership positions are likely to have more women economic share and labor force participation. So that's one thing. While it has been now strongly advocated, communicated across various channels that each institution should have daycare center, harassment policies, the gender support cells, and they are being structured across all the government machinery in both as well as in private sector. Now, adding on to the economic transformation through the gender role, another thing which is important and is being considered is the employment conditions, because of the particular nature of the woman, biological nature, that she has to get married and have babies. So in that aspect, maternity leave, in addition to that, there is a concept which is called employment break in both private and public sector. In general, whenever a woman take leave, she has to either resign, or then there is no place left for her to come back. So this is being addressed, that there should be an employment break option, starting with the government and then bringing it to the public, the private sector. Now, another aspect is the rural economy. You have seen that the urbanization has its own benefits, but it has its own drawbacks, both at the climatic change level, environment impacts, as well as then having the transport issues and so on. So the rural connectivity is another focus, that we should bring all the quality services in the rural areas, right from the financial inclusion to the access to health and education, and then having an ease of access through fastest mode from the rural areas to the urban areas. Similarly, recently I was in a part of a meeting where our Minister Iqbal Sahab was discussing how we transform the road infrastructures into economic hubs and connecting them to the small cities, small villages, so that if we are not able to use the village level structure at this point in time, at least we can provide a good, fastest access to the nearest economic zone or economic hub. With all these various strategies, I would also like to add on to my colleague Iqbal Saab's comment on curriculum. Almost all the universities are engaged for establishing center of excellence in the most recent advancements and innovations that is happening around the world. Business incubation centers are being formed. Curriculum reforms are already being taken. There are committees that are being already formed for last almost 2 years. In one of the program, I was asked a question that what different are this government is doing that has not been done for last many years, is engaging the a holistic concept of bringing together various minds, including private sector, government sector, philanthropists, and international experts, to form the consultative bodies within each ministries, where we should have a broader perspective and combine vision, combine thought process to transform the economy, which should have experience of those people who are already renowned in their field, in curriculum reforms, in industrial reforms, in the educational reforms, and so on. So I'm pretty sure that if we all work together for Uraan Pakistan, translating the 5E framework through next 13th 5-year plan and then adding on to another 14th and 15th plan, we will definitely be in a very sustainable economic growth zone for our generations to enjoy that. Thank you.
Definitely, of course, a very, of course, a pragmatic approach and very well highlighted. Dr. Nasir, of course, your concluding remarks as we talk about the 5Es framework and, of course, as the conversation has shaped up, they're aligning with the SDGs.
I think it's my last comment that no, we need to move toward the action. So we have a lot of plans. Our history is full with plans, with a vision. No, this is the right time to move toward the action. So the PIDE have a very well elaborated growth agenda where you can find all kind of action that we're really looking for. Our motto is to create markets. We have to move away from this welfare state to a market state where we give an equal opportunity to everyone. So if there is equal opportunity for everyone, then definitely there is no hurdle in doing businesses. So we have to change our narrative. We have to change our gear from a very low gear to a very high position. And for that, we have to create an action-oriented framework. And that's what the only way forward is we have to create an action oriented with a clear guideline and strict policy. I would call it just like a very common phrase that a carrot and stick with sunset clause. So if we use these three terms, we can definitely transform our country, and the Uraan would be a one way to transform our country.
Definitely, actions and implementation. With that, we'll wrap up the first segment. Of course, I'd like to thank all of our participants, Dr. Jasim Anwar, Mishal Niaz, and Dr. Nasir Iqbal. Thank you all for your time and being part of the conversation. We hope all the suggestions, they reach the relevant quarters, and of course, they do have their effect in, of course, economic generation and taking the country's economy forward. Coming towards our second topic, as a US veteran killed 15 in the French Quarter attack displaying an ISIS flag. Not a very warm welcome to the new year, but of course it happened in America, and of course it is something that is being condemned, and of course a very tragic incident indeed. The veteran has been identified as Shamsuddin Jabbar, a US Army veteran who plowed his truck into a crowd and started shooting upon the police and the crowd. FBI termed the incident as terrorism, as an ISIS flag was also found in his vehicle. Raja Faisal, how do you see the timing of this attack and, of course, the future impacts that it is going to have?
Yeah, Rafae, obviously when we talk about whatever has happened in New Orleans, this is obviously very saddening to see 15 people lost their lives, and at a time when they were in the middle of celebrations for the new year. And when we talk about the people who have lost their lives, their families, I mean, our heart goes out to them. But coming to the timing of the event, to me, I think it is all about deep state playing very, very deeply, and they are creating further landmines for the upcoming Trump administration. And to me, before Trump gets into the Oval Office, there will be a lot of mess that would be created, so that when he gets into the office, as he has been earlier during his election campaign, claiming that he is not a pro-war president, and he would obviously getting out of Middle East, getting out of Europe, Eastern Europe, and he just doesn't want to be part of any war, and he just wants to bring the US troops home. But the deep state doesn't want it right now. Deep state and Israel doesn't want the American forces, the US forces getting out of Middle East. This shows that they are creating the landmines for somebody who's getting into the Oval Office. And by the way, Rafae, when we talk about ISIS itself, I mean, everyone knows that who's been supporting ISIS in past, and how they have been planted right in the heart of the Middle East, so that they can of course create a havoc, and that havoc can of course attract the forces from US to stay or to have a prolonged stay in the Middle Eastern countries. Now at this moment, when we know that ISIS itself is involved in a way that they have garnered support of a veteran from US who happened to serve US armed forces for 12 years, and after that, of course, he has been serving during the war as well. So it shows that ISIS itself is a very enabled kind of organization. And in our show we have highlighted so many times in past as well that everyone is looking towards ISIS, but nobody is looking towards ISIS Khorasan, and ISIS Khorasan is just sitting next to us. We have been highlighting in our show that Paktika, you take the example of Nangarhar, Kunnad, Nuristan, all of these provinces, they have the presence of ISIS Khorasan. And let me highlight something about the ideology on the papers. The ideology of the ISIS is, Daesh, Dawlat al-Islamiyya, Iraq wa Sham. The basic ideology they follow is that two countries, Iraq and Sham, it is considered as their Darul Khalafa. Then they categorize other countries like Yemen and Afghanistan and Sudan as well as they are the Darul Hijra. And the third term they use is Darul Kufr. By the way, in Darul Kufr, Pakistan is part of Darul Kufr when it comes to ISIS Khorasan, and it is as Darul Kufr as it can be India or Israel or anyone else. So we have been highlighting that if they want to nib ISIS, then they have to do something about ISIS Khorasan as well. Here we are, 4 years ago, Americans simply left the region to its own once more, and they ran away, and Pakistan is still fighting that war on terror. Pakistan is still day and night fighting against ISIS Khorasan, fighting against TTP, which is being catered by ISIS Khorasan, BLA, which is being catered, and BLF, which is being catered by ISIS Khorasan, and nobody pays any heed towards it. And if the future discourse, if they want to set that they have to nib and nab ISIS Khorasan, then they must do something obviously about it now, and Pakistan is already fighting against them.
Definitely.
And Pakistan, all Pakistan seeks is that there should be adequate support to do it. And
Definitely.
to me, I think we are fighting once more a war that should have been fought by Americans themselves, and that should have been fought by the NATO forces, and here we are the front line.
Raja Faisal, one quick comment. Of course, as you mentioned, as this whole incident, an attempt by the deep state to, of course, keep the American forces in the Middle East. As we also mentioned that the new president that's going to be sworn in, he has a different policy. Do you think there's going to be a rift between the Oval Office and the deep state in America?
Oh yeah, big time. The very first comment which I heard from from Trump after he won the election, and that was that here I am, and there are few people in the deep state. I don't want to name them right now, but I would ask them to leave the office as soon as I get into the Oval Office. This shows that he is going head on against the deep state, and deep state is in the hot waters right now. And by the way, when we talk about Middle East, why and who wants the US forces remain in the Middle East?
Exactly.
Of course, that is Israel, because Israel knows as long as it has an arm's length support from within the Middle East of the US, it feels secure in the Middle East. And that's why I am believing that deep state, of course, it is working on the indications of the Zionism. And don't forget ever that the outgoing president, Joe Biden, once he openly said it, that you don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist. So he himself is part of the Zionism.
Well, Raja Faisal, always a pleasure to have your views. With that, we wrap up the debate for today as we discussed Uraan, Pakistan, and the tragic killing in New Orleans. That's all that we have for today. See you same time tomorrow. Till then, take care.